Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all doing very well. So in today's video I'm going to be showing you this really cute spring themed strawberry deer bucket hat. This is a really simple project. It only requires sort of knowing double crochet, increasing and decreasing the double crochet, single crochet, half double crochet and chaining. That's pretty much it, and a couple of slip stitches as well. So if you're pretty confident in that, then you're going to find this tutorial super easy. I hope you all enjoyed this tutorial and let's get into it. So for this project I'm going to be starting with a 2.5mm hook, and I'm going to be using this throughout the entire project, and I'm going to be using double knit yarn for this project. Normally for double knit yarn they recommend about a 4mm hook, so if you have a 4mm hook, 3.5, 3 or a 2.5, then all of those will work fine. Just bear in mind that if you have a loose tension like me and you use a bigger hook than I'm using, then your work might come out with some gaps in it, just because naturally if you have loose tension then you're going to kind of have a little bit more gaps. However, if your tension is normal or it's a little bit tighter, then you'd be absolutely fine to use a 3.5 or 4mm hook. You're also going to need some scissors and a stitch marker. For yarn today I'm going to be using this light brown double knit yarn because I want it to replicate kind of the deer fur colour, so I'm using this light brown kind of oatmeal colour. I've got 100 grams of this, and this is a double knit yarn. And then for the added extras I'm going to be using this baby pink yarn. This is also the double knit yarn. I've got about 100 grams of this, but I probably will only need about 25 to 50 grams, so just bear that in mind. And then for the strawberry leaf I'm going to be using about 25 grams of mint green double knit yarn. And then I'm going to also be using about 25 to 50 grams of white double knit yarn as well. So I'm going to start off with the main part of the bucket hat. So you're going to take your main colour, which is the light brown, and you're going to want to take your hook, and then you just want to make a slip knot. Okay, and then you want to make a chain of 4. So 1, 2, 3 and 4. And then you're going to want to make a slip stitch into that 4th chain from the hook. So just counting 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm making a slip stitch into this chain. And this is going to make a ring. Okay, so when you kind of pull apart the work, you'll see that ring in the middle. And that's what we're going to be crocheting into. So into this ring I'm going to make 12 double crochets. So I'm going to start off with my double crochet. So I'm going to yarn over, insert my hook into that ring, yarn over again and pull up a loop, 3 loops on the hook. I'm going to yarn over and pull through the first 2 loops, and then I'm going to yarn over and pull through the last 2 loops, like that. And then I'm going to do that 11 more times. So I'm just making 11 more double crochets into the ring. Okay, so once you have your 12 double crochets, you're just going to want to place your stitch marker into that 12th V to mark the end of the round. And then I'm just going to pull on the short tail to close the ring, and I'm going to continue weaving in the end as I go into the next round as well, so that I can close it even tighter. So for round 2 I'm going to be making 2 double crochets into each stitch. So I'm basically making 24 double crochets. So into the next stitch, or the first stitch of the round, I'm going to be making 2 double crochets into this stitch, and I'm looping over this tail so that I can weave it in. So that's 2 double crochets, and I'm just basically doing 2 double crochets into each stitch. And then I'm just going to place the stitch marker back into that last double crochet, and I did pull on the short tail, so now that my hole is all closed and it's all weaved in as well, I didn't even have to cut it because I ended up just basically pulling it as I went around, and then it just closed the gap, and it also ended up like weaving in because it was only a short bit anyway. So for round 3 I'm now going to be making 1 double crochet into the first stitch and then 2 double crochets into the second stitch. So I'm starting with 1 double crochet into that first stitch, and then into the second stitch 2 double crochets. And then I'm just going to repeat that sequence all the way around. So 1 double crochet into the first stitch, and then 2 double crochets into the second stitch. And by the end of the round you will have 36 stitches. Okay, then once you reach the end of the round, you just want to replace the stitch marker. And then for round 4, I will be doing 1 double crochet into the first 2 stitches, and then 2 double crochets into the third stitch. So I'm going to do my 1 double crochet into the first stitch, 1 double crochet into the second stitch, and then 2 double crochets into the third stitch. So the sequence goes 1, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2 all the way around, and by the end of the round you'll have 48 stitches. Okay, so I've just finished round 4 and I have 48 stitches in the round, and then for round 5 I'm going to be making 3 double crochets and then 2 double crochets into the fourth stitch. So 1 double crochet into the next 3 stitches, so that's 1, 2 and 3, and then into the fourth stitch I'm going to make 2 double crochets. Okay, and then again 1 double crochet into the next 3 stitches, 1, 2, 3, and then into the fourth stitch 2 double crochets. And I'm basically going to repeat that sequence all the way around, and by the end of the round I will have 60 stitches. And then for round 6 I'm going to be doing 4 double crochets and then 2 double crochets into the fifth stitch, so that'll be 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 2 double crochets, and repeat that sequence around, giving you 72 stitches. And then for round 7 I will do 5 double crochets, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then into the sixth stitch 2 double crochets, and I'm going to repeat that sequence all the way around, leaving you with 84 stitches. So I'm going to come back once I have finished round 7, and then we will move on to round 8. Okay, so I've just finished round 7 and now I'm going to move on to round 8. So for round 8 this is a little bit different. We're going to do 11 double crochets and then 2 double crochets into the next stitch. So I'm going to start off with 1 double crochet into the next 11 stitches. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, and then into the 12th stitch I'm going to make 2 double crochets. Okay, so that's basically the sequence, 11 double crochets, and then into the 12th I'm going to make 2 double crochets into that stitch. So I'm going to repeat that all the way around, and by the end of the round you should have 91 stitches. Okay, so I've just finished round 8, and now for round 9 I'm going to be making 12 double crochets, and then into the 13th stitch I'm going to make my 2 double crochets. So I'm starting with 12 double crochets, 1 double crochet into each stitch, 1, 2, 3, 12, and then into the 13th stitch I'm going to make 2 double crochets. So that is the sequence. I'm going to make 12 double crochets, and then the 13th stitch I will make 2 double crochets, and I will repeat that all the way around, and by the end of the round you should have 98 stitches. So I will come back once I've finished round 9, and then we'll be moving on to round 10. Okay, so I've just finished round 9, and now I'm going to move on to round 10. So for round 10 to 17 it's going to be the exact same thing. We're just making 1 double crochet into each stitch. So we're not increasing anything, we're not decreasing anything, literally just 1 in each stitch. I'm going to be doing that from round 10 to round 17. So just literally making 1 double crochet into each stitch all the way around. And then when I get to the end of the round I will replace the stitch marker back in this like last stitch that I do. So yeah, I'm going to just continue doing rounds of just double crochet until I have finished round 17, and then I'll come back and I'll show you how to do round 18. Okay, so I have now finished round 17, and now for round 18 I'm going to do one more increase round, and this is going to be in the front loop. So where you see these V's, obviously we stick the hook into both of those V's, but we're just going to be picking up that front loop. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to slip stitch into the following stitch of the new round, like this, and then we're going to start our next round by chaining 1, and we're going to be working in the front loop. So I'm going to pick up that front loop of where we just made that slip stitch, and I'm going to make a double crochet, just picking up that front loop. Okay, and then I'm going to make 5 more double crochets, so 6 in total. So that was 1, and again working in the front loop only. So that's 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And then into the 7th stitch I'm going to make an increase, so I'm going to make 2 double crochets into that front loop. So that's 1, and that's 2. And then I'm going to repeat that sequence all the way around, so 6 double crochets in the front loop only. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and then in the 7th stitch 2 double crochets in that front loop. Okay, so I'm going to repeat that all the way around, and then I'll meet you back once I get to the last stitch marker. So you'll be making 2 double crochets into the front loop of where the stitch marker is, so I will meet you back once I've reached the stitch marker. Okay, so I've just finished my last increase stitch where the stitch marker is, so I'm just going to take the stitch marker out so that you can see, and now we're going to close the round by slip stitching into that first double crochet that we made. So we're going to skip the slip stitch, skip the chain 1, and we're going into that first double crochet and making a slip stitch. See how that closes it together? And then for the last 2 rounds it's very easy, we're just going to chain 1. We're going to make a double crochet in the same stitch. So as you can see here, this is where the beginning of the round is, and if you find it easier you can place your stitch marker in this first double crochet. This is going to mark exactly where you're going to slip stitch into once you get back round, and you're just going to make 1 double crochet into each stitch, and we're working in both loops this time and for the following round as well, so just normal double crochets, 1 in each stitch. Literally just making 1 double crochet in each stitch, and then when you get to the end, the very last double crochet, you're going to then slip stitch back into that first double crochet that we made where the stitch marker is. And then for round 20 I'm going to chain 1 again and repeat the exact same thing, double crochet in the same stitch, put my stitch marker in that stitch, and then make 1 double crochet into each stitch all the way around. When I reach the beginning I will slip stitch back into where the stitch marker is. So I'm going to come back after I've completed round 20, and then I'm going to fasten off, so I'll meet you back then. Okay, so I've just done my last slip stitch and now I'm going to fasten off. So I'm going to chain 1, and then I'm just going to cut the yarn, And I'm just going to weave this in with my hook onto the inside of the hat. Okay, so that is the main part of the hat all done. You should see how this sort of section where we did it in the front loop only kind of folds out to create that bucket shape. So now I'm going to be showing you how to make the spots. Okay, so for the spots I'm using my white yarn and I've got my hook, and I made 3 different sizes of spots because on a deer they have different sizes and they're pretty much no 2 spot is the same. They have a kind of a variety of like curvy spots and then also circular ones, so that's what I was kind of going for. And I didn't really have much of a plan, I just kind of made these spots as I went along. But for the circular spot I basically just took my yarn and I made a slip knot, and we're going to do the exact same thing that we did for the bucket hat. We're going to make a chain of 4, 1, 2, 3 and 4, and then I'm going to slip stitch into that 4th chain like that, and then I'm going to make 8 single crochets into that ring. So I'm going into the ring and making my first single crochet, and then I'm going to make 7 more. Okay, and then I'm just going to place my stitch marker in that 8th stitch. Okay, and then for round 2 I'm going to be making 1 single crochet into the first stitch and then 2 single crochets into the second stitch, and I'm going to repeat that sequence all the way around. So going into my first stitch, making 1 single crochet, and then into the second stitch 2 single crochets, and then again into the next stitch 1 single crochet, and then into the next stitch 2 single crochets, 1 single crochet into the next stitch, and 2 single crochets into the following stitch. So here's what the small spot is looking like. It's literally just a circle, and then when you have finished your small spot you would just slip stitch into the next stitch, and then you would just cut the yarn and leave a long tail for sewing. Okay, so for the medium spot I basically just do single crochets all around, and then in a couple of random stitches I will do kind of a bit more of a bulk stitch. So I'm just going to do some single crochets into sort of the next few stitches. And I don't really like do any specific number, I just do a couple, maybe 2 or 3. And then in the following stitch, this is where I'm going to make kind of a bit more of a bump. So I'm going to do a half double crochet into that next stitch. And then I'm going to do a double crochet, and then a half double crochet again. And then at this point I would just make 1 single crochet into each stitch until I get to the stitch marker. And you can place that like bumpy area at any point on the circle. Okay, and then cut the yarn, and then you would just sew the medium spot on. Okay, so for the large spot I've just done my 8 single crochets into the ring, so just as I did for the small spot, but this time for the second round I'm going to make 2 single crochets into each stitch, and this is going to double the amount of stitches we have, so at the end of the round you should have 16 stitches. Okay, so once you've finished round 2, you're going to now work on round 3. For round 3, I'm doing half double crochets in each stitch for every single stitch, but I'm also going to be doing some bumpy stitches around, and I'm going to do a couple of those. So I'm going to do maybe like 3 half double crochets. Again, you don't need to like make any of this exact, just kind of go with the flow, but just for the purpose of the pattern I'm just going to do like 3 half double crochets, and then in the next stitch I will do like 3 double crochets in the same stitch. 1, 2 and 3, and then I'm just going to carry on with a few more half double crochets, so just like 1 in maybe the next like 4 stitches. So that's 2, 3 and 4, and then in the next stitch I'll do another 3 double crochets. So that's 1, 2 and then 3, and then I'm going to do another few half double crochets. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then in the next stitch I'll just do another 3 double crochets. Okay, and then to finish the round I would just do my last 2 half double crochets. Again, it doesn't really matter like where you do each kind of bulkier stitch, because the whole point is that the spots are meant to kind of look different and not meant to be like perfect. So as you can see here, I've got my small spot, my medium spot and my large spot, and then I'm just scattering these all around the hat and I'm sewing each one on. So I'm just going to be making a bunch of these spots, and then I'm just going to sew them all around the kind of perimeter of the hat. So literally just all around, making sure that they are spaced out, and spaced out enough that you have room to place strawberries around it as well. Okay, so I have just made all of the spots and then I've pinned them all kind of evenly around the hat. I've made about 22 spots, so I'm going to basically sew all of the spots down now with my sewing needle, and then I'm going to show you how to make the strawberry, which we are also going to be sewing on to the hat. Okay, so for the strawberry I'm going to be taking my baby pink yarn and I'm going to make a slip knot. Okay, and then I'm going to make a chain of 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then I'm going to make 1 single crochet into the second back bump from the hook. So I'm going to be flipping the chains over, and you can see these back bumps right here. So I'm going into that second back bump, which is basically the back bump behind the second chain. Right there, and I'm going to make a single crochet, and then a single crochet into each back bump all the way across. So it's 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. After you've done your 6 single crochets, you're going to chain 1 to start the next row, and then turn the work, and then I'm just going to be making 1 single crochet into each stitch across, and I'm going to weave in this end as I go. Okay, and then I'm just going to cut this short tail because it's all weaved in now. Okay, and then for row 3 we're going to make a decrease row, so I'm going to chain 1 and turn the work, and I'm going to skip the very first stitch and I'm going to make a single crochet into the second stitch, and then I'm going to make 2 more single crochets. So that's 1 and 2. You should have 2 stitches left. I'm going to skip the next stitch and make a single crochet into that very last stitch. So you should now have 4 stitches in your row, and then for row 4 I'm going to chain 1 and turn the work. I'm going to skip the first stitch and make a single crochet into the second stitch, and then I'm going to skip the next stitch and make a single crochet into that last stitch. So now you have 2 stitches in the row, and then for the final row I'm going to chain 1, and then I'm going to turn the work. I'm going to make a single crochet into the first stitch, and then I'm going to make a slip stitch into the second stitch. Okay, so you should kind of have this sort of triangular shape. And now I'm basically just going to make single crochets around the border, and then into each corner at the top I'm going to make 2 single crochets. So I'm basically just kind of finding a side stitch on the side of the strawberry, making a single crochet, and I'm making one sort of each space up the side of the strawberry. And then I've reached the top corner, so now I'm going to make 2 single crochets into that top corner. And then I'm going to single crochet across, and when I reach this corner stitch I'll make another 2 single crochets. Okay, and then I'm just going to single crochet down until I reach this corner here. Okay, so now I've reached that single crochet and the slip stitch. So I'm just going to make a single crochet where that single crochet is, and then a slip stitch where the slip stitch is, like that. And then I'm just going to chain 1 and fasten off, leaving a long tail for sewing. Okay, so this is what it should be looking like. Then you're going to want to take your green yarn, and we're now going to work on the stem. So I'm going to make a slip knot with my green yarn. So I'm going to make a slip knot with my green yarn, and then I'm going to take the strawberry and I'm going to flip it upside down, so you should have the top point kind of facing up, and you're just going to find sort of a middle stitch across the longest point of the triangle. So kind of find roughly the middle stitch, insert your hook through both of those loops, and then pull your slip knot through. That. And then I'm just going to make a chain of 4. 1, 2, 3 and 4, and then I'm going to slip stitch into the second chain from the hook, slip stitch into the next chain, and then slip stitch into the next chain. Okay, and then I'm going to chain 4 again. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to repeat the same thing, make a slip stitch into that second chain. I'm going to make a slip stitch into the next chain. I'm going to slip stitch into the next chain. So that's the second leaf now done. Then I'm going to make another chain 4. 1, 2, 3 and 4. And then I'm going to slip stitch into that second chain again. Slip stitch into the next chain, and then slip stitch into that very last chain. Okay, so you should have these kind of 3 leaves, and then you're just going to want to insert your hook back into that first stitch, so that pink stitch, and make a slip stitch like that. And then you're just going to want to chain 1 and fasten off, leave a tail for sewing. I'm going to weave in this short tail into the back of the work. Okay, and then I'm going to flip my strawberry back to the front side, and then I'm going to kind of sew the leaves down onto the strawberry. So I'm just going to grab my sewing needle and pull the green string through, and I basically just kind of sew to make sure that the leaves stay in this position. Okay, so that's what the strawberry is looking like. You're going to want to make as many of these as you want, and you can also add some white seed details onto it as well. I'm going to do that in a second. With your pink tail, you're then just going to want to sew the strawberry around the outside onto your hat. I'm personally just going to be sewing my strawberry kind of wherever I see spaces around the spots, so about here, and then maybe about here, you know what I mean, just like kind of placing the strawberries around, dotting it around. So I'm going to do that off camera and then I will show you the final result. Thank you all so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed this tutorial, then please consider subscribing and giving this video a thumbs up. And if you have any suggestions of what you want me to make in the future, then feel free to leave a comment down below as well. I'm always open to new ideas. So yeah, I love you all and I will see you in the next video. Bye guys.